Hello guys, welcome back to Triple Double Nation. Today we'll be going over the most controversial players in NBA history. Karl Malone. As great as he was in the court, Karl Malone was controversial in the sense that he was more open about his political views than the rest of the fellow NBA players. A staunch Republican, Malone appeared in ads for the NRA and was once called Uncle Tom by Derek Coleman. Kermit Washington. Although he was a decent rebounder in the early stages of his career, Kermit Washington will always be remembered for one unfortunate and controversial incident. In 1977, when his Los Angeles Lakers were playing the Houston Rockets, he infamously sucker punched Houston guard Rudy Tomjanovich. The punch hit so hard that Tomjanovich's face was fractured and spinal fluid was leaking into his mouth. Washington was suspended for 2 months and fined $10,000 before being traded to the Boston Celtics. It was the longest suspension in league history at the time. Afterward, Washington was never really the same dominating presence he was at power forward, forever tainted by the incident. Stephen Jackson. Putting aside the fact that he is about to play for his 7th team in what is about to be his 12th career season, Stephen Jackson is controversial for one reason: his attitude. Let's not forget that this is the same man who was a key guilty party in the infamous Malice at the Palace in 2004 and was suspended for 30 games as a result. Just 2 years later, Jackson and 3 teammates were involved in an altercation at an Indianapolis strip club that involved him getting punched by another customer as well as hit by a car. He then thought it was a good idea to take out a gun and fire several rounds into the air. These actions earned him a 7-game suspension. Chris Washburn. The look on Chris Washburn's face in this picture is a perfect example of his attitude during his brief NBA career. Simply put, the man just didn't care. The 6'11" center was the 3rd pick in the 1986 draft and is considered one of the biggest busts in league history. The controversy associated with him began during his college ball years at North Carolina State, where he was rumored to never attend class and was caught stealing televisions and stereos. These actions earned him a couple of days in jail and a 5-year suspended sentence. He wasn't much better on the court, having a bad work ethic despite respectable stats. Once he got to the NBA, however, his image was further tarnished by underperformance and a cocaine problem. By 1989, he was banned for life after 3 failed drug tests. Pat Riley. Putting aside the fact that he's easily the cockiest executive in the NBA, Pat Riley is controversial for one reason. Call me a hater, but I think there's something fishy going on with the Heat's finances, simply because they so easily signed Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James to long-term contracts last summer. I know someone called that efficient management, but how did the team even get that much money? Could it all have been from basically getting most of the roster? Either way, as much credit as Riley deserves for making it happen, something seems a bit out of sorts from my point of view. Andrew Bynum. We can go on and on about how Andrew Bynum is controversial because of his dirty hit on JJ Barea last playoffs, but I would instead like to focus on his attitude. Never before have I seen a player take a serious injury so lightly. Since becoming a Laker in 2005, Bynum has constantly been injured, and after the team won its 2nd consecutive championship in 2010, he opted to delay having surgery on his already torn meniscus. Instead, he went on vacation for a few weeks and had the procedure upon his return. As a result, his recovery took longer, and he chose to inform team management hours before the start of the training camp last year. Talk about a PR nightmare involving a player with a bad attitude, and I thought the Allen Iverson situation was bad. Michael Jordan. Easily the greatest player in basketball history, Michael Jordan was the player some of us dreamed of being as children. Yet the 6-time champion was not the picture of perfection some saw him to be. In fact, in 1993, it was uncovered that Jordan had lost $57,000 gambling in a short period of time. The controversial part is where he was seen gambling in the early morning hours of the same day Game 2 of Eastern Conference Finals he played. Some have even speculated that MJ's retirement was, in fact, a year suspension as a result of his gambling addiction. Kevin Garnett. Already one of the league's biggest trash talkers, Kevin Garnett became Mr. Controversy this past season when he made some despairing remarks about Detroit Pistons forward Charlie Vanuva. In a tweet following a loss of the Celtics, Villanueva claimed that Garnett had called him a cancer patient due to his bald head. Villanueva suffers from a condition called alopecia, which results in hair loss. Garnett claimed he said, "You're cancerous to your team in the league," but that seems too clean for him. If I had to guess, he went well below the belt, as ESPN's Player X claimed he does regularly. Mark Cuban. Easily the most passionate owner in the NBA, Mark Cuban has been controversial and outspoken since taking control of the Dallas Mavericks in 2000. Since then, he has become famous for his enthusiastic reactions at the team's games, as well as his sometimes annoying exuberance. His controversy comes from his brutal honesty, which sometimes gets him into trouble with the commissioner's office. In 2006, ABC News reported that Cuban had been fined a total of $1.65 million for 13 separate incidents. That number has grown since then. Still, Cuban's controversial attitude is part of the reason Dallas has done so well recently, particularly with winning a championship in the past summer. The man simply loves his team and hates to lose. Some may call his attitude controversial, but I call it admirable. Wilt Chamberlain. On the court, Wilt Chamberlain is one of the greatest centers of all time. Off the court, he was controversial to the point where some people's jaws dropped. In his book, A View from Above, Chamberlain claimed to have slept with 20,000 women. I'm sorry, but the fact that he would admit something as private as that in a book is just controversial and ballsy in itself. I mean, come on, even if he didn't name names, why would he go public with that? Either way, the man's brutal honesty was part of his charisma, and people still admire him to this day. Dennis Rodman. Ever since entering the NBA as a member of the Detroit Pistons in 1986, Dennis Rodman has been controversy's best friend. The rebounder of the Bad Boys, Rodman basically gave up on playing hard in Detroit once head coach Chuck Daly resigned. The remainder of his career was defined by an ever-changing hairstyle, disputes with team management, clashes with teammates, and on-court assaults. Then again, when your nickname is The Worm, I guess controversy just follows you wherever you go. Charles Barkley. Whether NBA players like it or not, they are role models. The fact that Charles Barkley made this commercial and said the exact opposite with such a deadpan look on his face caused outrage among the parents of young fans.
Doesn't mean I should raise your kids.
Still, one must admit that Barkley's points were valid. Yet controversy has followed Barkley into retirement, as he once had a well-documented gambling problem, and just a few years ago was pulled over and charged with DUI in Arizona. He may not consider himself a role model, but the fact that he is now a well-known television personality makes it all the more controversial. Kobe Bryant. Though he is personally one of my favorite players, Kobe Bryant is considered by many to be one of the more controversial players out there. Despite being a fan of his, I actually agree with him. The man is a flashy player whose defense sometimes borders on dirty. On top of that, some people still don't seem to have forgiven Bryant for the alleged sexual assault he committed in Colorado back in 2003. For those unfamiliar with the incident, a hotel employee accused him of raping her in his hotel room in Eagle, Colorado. The criminal charges were eventually dropped, and the last two sides settled in civil court. LeBron James. Although many love LeBron James as a player, he has had his fair share of controversy off the court in the past year. To date, many fans still don't seem to have forgiven him for his infamous decision that alienated him from all but one fan base and basically turned him into NBA's biggest villain. The worst part is that he has not really apologized for his arrogance, even after royally choking in the NBA Finals. To add insult to injury, he brought even more controversy on himself with some arrogant remarks to his haters. Ron Artest / Meta World Peace. Ron Artest has been no stranger to controversy throughout his career. He has demanded trades, confronted players on the court during games, and was the man who took the Malice at the Palace over the top. Most recently, he legally changed his name to Meta World Peace. On top of that, since coming back to the Los Angeles Lakers, Artest has been a regular on Jimmy Kimmel Live. And when the Lakers won their second consecutive championship in 2010, he was sure to thank the psychiatrist. His controversy resume spans wide from what was that to who does that. Gilbert Arenas. In some cases, controversy just finds players by accident. In the case of Gilbert Arenas, he brought it on himself. After getting into an argument over gambling debts with teammate Javaris Crittenton, Arenas brought unloaded guns into the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C., and more or less challenged Crittenton to a gunfight. I'm not gonna lie, this was a pretty stupid decision considering the strict gun controls laws in D.C. While he has since apologized and moved on to another team, people still don't seem to have forgiven Arenas for what happened. The sad part about controversy is that sometimes it just doesn't go away. This brings us to the end of our video. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that like button and that subscribe button and stay safe. Goodbye.